Give it up for Q-Bear, who's been up here, just being vulnerable, just giving you blood, sweat, and tears, just doing it. That's not easy. It's not easy. Repeat after me. Black lives, they matter here.
Black lives, they matter here.
I said black lives, they matter here.
Black lives, they matter here.
Say his name.
George Floyd.
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 My name is Toussaint Morrison. I've worked in public schools for over a decade as a paraprofessional. Usually they call me in when a student's on their third strike and they're trying to reestablish them in their homeroom. And I've been raised in Minneapolis and come to know this city very, very well. And I just wanted to speak real quick, and I thank Amanda Jackson for having me out here. And she was originally going to have me as the MC, but just Q-Bear's taking it away, so just taking it away. If it ain't broke, you know. But I wanted to deliver just some real quick bad news. About 3 years ago, you had the opportunity to vote in a black woman as the mayor of this city. You passed it up. You voted in a white male that was more concerned with tearing down Kmart on Nicollet Avenue and building condos than the encampments along Hiawatha. Just 3 blocks away from here, and this is gonna get me worked up. There's an absolute travesty. There was an absolute disaster. It is the result of neglect, poor leadership, and absolute complacency. When you go see encampments filled with people experiencing homelessness, filled with children sleeping on the ground, that is an abject failure. That's the bad news. You voted somebody in that got that result. You voted in city councilors, a city council that's more concerned with shoveling sidewalks and bike lanes than they are with black lives. It's really pretty that Sean King can retweet Lisa Bender, but she just showed up. And so it's not pretty to me. Where were you at when Jamar Clark was executed? Where were you at when Philando Castile was executed? Where were you at when Thurman Blevins was executed? Where were you at when Isaac Aiden was executed? These are modern day lynchings. And I'll say it again. What good is a shoveled sidewalk or a bike lane if black people aren't alive to travel on them? You voted that city council in. They're still there. They're still leading. You also voted in a governor that has allowed all of this to happen. You have voted in leadership that has gotten this result. I was born in the South and I was raised here. And a lot of white people ask, how can this be the hotbed of so much racial unrest? I'll tell you very quickly, it's because you don't talk about it. I'll tell you very quickly from working in public media, they don't talk about it. TPT showed a documentary on the 100th anniversary of the lynchings in Duluth. Wow. What about the modern day lynchings right now? What about your white silence right now? What about your complicity right now? What about today? What about the names on the roads? What about the comprehensive district design that is going to actually rip families out of neighborhoods and place them somewhere else? You have voted in these people and they are leading us to disaster. But I got good news as well. If you're just showing up to the table now, thank you. That's great. Thank you. Stay at the table. And I know I'm speaking to white people right now. You can leave the table and you can come back to it. You can leave the table and come back to it whenever it's convenient and come back to it. You can celebrate it and come back to it. Black History Month and come back to it. I need you to stay at the table, okay? Don't leave it. And I'm speaking to the parents right now too, and you know that you're complicit with this. Because I've seen too many parents at Barton, at Burroughs, at all of these affluent, white, huge schools that they fight for tooth and nail just so that their white children can have an upper hand above every single black and brown body in this city. You are held accountable. you are absolutely held accountable. This state has some of the worst racial disparity in education in the nation. And you're responsible for that. You want to stand up for your white child? You better stand up for a black child too. You can still stop the comprehensive district design. And if you don't know what that is, they're going to turn your K through 8 into a 6 through 8. They're going to turn your K through 8 to a K through 5. And they may not mean much to you if you got a car and you're able to drive around. But what about brown and black families that have absolutely just rooted themselves in the community so their kid can go to that K through 8? Now, the school board is saying, we're going to switch it up. They're going to plug 1,500 kids into Anderson School. They're going to cut the 8 bilingual schools down to 3, to my understanding. It could change any time now. I don't know, it could be changing right now. They said the transportation budget was one thing. Next day, they said it was $10 million more. You can still stop the CDD. You can still stop the governor. You can still change the mayor next year. You can still hold the city council accountable. You can hold all of these people accountable. Stay at the table. And lastly, I want to round out with this as I'm ranting a little bit too long. I see some young black and brown faces here. And I want to say one thing. I'm with you. I am you. I've sat in that principal's office staring out of the window, wondering why my behavior was more punishable than a white kid. I've seen the isolation rooms. I've seen the black boys thrown in the special ed just because their temper flared up because they're dealing with homelessness outside of the building and white teachers don't want to deal with it. So I'm going to send you the resource room because I think you got oppositional disorder. It's not oppositional disorder. I'm going to tell you right now, your feelings, your rage, and your anger, it's not a disorder. It's the refusal of white authorities to accept you. It's the refusal of white institutions to give you permission to feel, to give you permission to tell your story. And in the case of Cornelius Frederick, they revoked his permission to live. When a black kid acts up violent or aggressive, they send him to out-of-home placement. And if you don't know what that is, they can send you as far away as Utah because they don't want to deal with you. And they put you in a big prison facility that they call a care facility. And when you act out like Cornelius Frederick did and threw a sandwich at a staff member because he was upset, and maybe he was having a bad day, just like Marcus Golden, who had a depression, who had a bad day, and then got shot by the police. Cornelius Frederick was having a bad moment, threw a sandwich at a staff member, got put into a hold, they sat on his chest for 9 minutes, killed him. Now you tell me, is that the same thing that would happen to a white boy? Is that the same thing that would happen to a white student acting out at Burroughs? A white student acting out at Barton? No. You have to hold yourself accountable. And I'm speaking to all the young brown and black people here. I see you. I love you. You're very lovable. You're amazing. You're beautiful. And your story is not told by your white teachers. Your story is not told by a documentary on TPT. Your story is not told by your history books. Your story is told by you. I want to thank Amanda Jackson and her husband for putting this all together, and all the people that put this together. Everybody say thank you. Say thank you. Say thank you. Thank you for the time.